Okay, I'll leave it to you. Go ahead, Shraga.
Okay, we have a big agenda, Baisai. We have to talk about a situation that when it comes up, like I mentioned in Yerushalayim, nobody wants to start learning the halachas then. Last time in Yerushalayim, we were zeicha to speak about the sugya of a mistake in the Balkoiri, made a mistake in the laning, when one has to say something, when dafka should not say something. But now, today in Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to talk about the sugya of when you find the psul in the Sefer Torah. Now, I'm going to talk today about not the halachas of psulim in the Sefer Torah. We'll talk about a situation where let's say it's vadei pasel. I don't want to get involved in, if it's not vadei pasel, that could be a whole different shmooze, as Hashem. But let's talk about where it's a vadei pasel and what's the din in a situation when you have a vadei Sefer Torah, a vadei pasul in the Sefer Torah. What do you do now? You have to take out another Sefer Torah, what it's with the brachas. There's a shaila by side. Let's say you're the person that bought the aliyah, and then you found out that there was a psul in the Sefer Torah. No, if you found out there's a psul in the Sefer Torah, you want your money back for the aliyah. Do you get your money back for the aliyah? And what about things that you laned last week? Let's say you found it that they laned, and it was a vadei psul. Vayomer was spelled with a kuf, a vadei psul, Rabbi say. So what do you do? It's a big sugya, and like I said, when it comes up on a busy Monday and Thursday, it's not the time to start learning these halachas. So let's Bez Hashem. Now that in Yerushalayim it's nichnas other bays, mishenichnas the other bays, you can imagine it's even a bigger simcha. So let's increase that simcha with the simchas HaTorah of this very, very shver sugya, and we try to make it Bez Hashem halacha l'maisa. And l'maisa, it's a big shaila. It's a big shaila. What do we do? What do we do? This is the shaila that every one of the Rishonim was busy with. This is the shaila that the Achreinim are all busy with. No less than the Halakha Rambam has even a tshuva about this. This is a shaila that there were minhagim in Klal Yisrael that seem to have changed. It's interesting that you would have a minig about such a situation. Kanira, it's not as uncommon as we think. So let's try to get clear. What's l'maisa? In a case where it's a vadai psul, and Mr. Shem will talk about what makes something a vadai psul, maybe a different time, but what's l'maisa? So we could clear a shaila. Who says there's a shaila b'chlal? You have a vadai pasal sefer Torah, and enochanami, if you want to know how you say the mitzvah of kisvu lechem es ashira azois, the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah, so enochanami, for the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah, you must have to have a kasha sefer Torah. But we're not discussing now Ksiva Sefer Torah. We're discussing the laning. And maybe we can clear that albeit for the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, it's not a kosher Sefer Torah. But who says that laning requires a kosher Sefer Torah? We all learned last week that the objective of laning is because Klal Yisrael can't go 3 days without Torah. So there's a certain tachlis to make sure you don't go 3 days without Torah. No, after for that tachlis, it's true. I probably can't lane it out of a laser print chumash. But if I have a rubai kekulai and I have most of the Sefer Torah intact, and kavachimer, if I have, let's say, a mistake in one chumash, we know that a chumash in the lashonis of the Gemara doesn't mean what we call a chumash. A chumash is a chumash; it's a fifth. So Bereshis is a chumash, and Shmois is a chumash, and Vayik. So let's say you know that there's a psul in Bereshis, somewhere in the middle of Bereshis. But why should that affect the other chumashim, the other 80%? Why should that affect Shmois? We could say the whole tachlis, the whole objective of the mitzvah of laning al kapanim is to make sure that you don't go 3 days without Torah. No, like we know that the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yud Ches says that if you have a Megillah which is missing a few words, Solomite, it's kosher. So maybe we could say the same thing here too, right? Or no, or maybe taka, you have to have mamash a kriya from a Torah, and don't forget what the Gemara in Eruvin says. The Gemara in Daf Yud Gimel, it warns the SEFER that the SEFER has to be extremely careful when he's writing the Sefer Torah, because if he's chaser eis echlas, or yaser eis echlas, the Gemara says that mamash, it could be a churban to the whole entire world. So this is the big shaila, but that's our shaila. Maybe taka, we can declare that you don't need a kosher Sefer Torah. And no less than the Halakha Rambam in the Chuvas HaRambam, in the Pe'er Hador, that's the Rambam's Chuvas, in Siman Tes, he has a short Chuva, where he says it's mutter to lane from apostle Sefer Torah. And he seems to say exactly like we're saying, that when it comes to the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, the Nenechanami, the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, that requires a kosher Sefer Torah. But we're not discussing the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah. We're discussing the mitzvah of laning from a Sefer Torah. Look up at the mitzvah of laning from a Sefer Torah. He says that his lashon is atzmai shel kriya hi mitzvah. The mitzvah is the kriya. The atzmai shel kriya is the mitzvah. And even kara bal peh, akapanim, maybe not the whole thing. The Rambam adds, however, we find that when it comes to birchas HaTorah, we find that we make a birchas HaTorah every morning, and we're not making it on a Sefer Torah. So you see, you could be making it on the limud. No, over here also, the ikr is the kriya, the ikr is the laning. And the Gemara in Gittin, he says the Rambam, a gevaldik adik, a gevaldik araya, says the Rambam. The Gemara in Gittin says that you can't lane from chumashim. Like I explained before, chumashim means a fifth. In other words, you can't have, they used to have we would have the whole Sefer Torah together, but let's say you'd have not the whole Sefer Torah together. You have Breishis by itself, and Shmois by itself, and Vayikra by itself. So that would be called a Chumash. So the Gemara says in Gittin, don't lane from a Chumash, from what we call a Chumash. You should only lane from, like we mentioned, you should only lane from a full Sefer Torah. Why, says the Gemara in Gittin? Says the Gemara in Gittin because it's not covered of the tzibur. It's not possible for the tzibur that you're laning out of a chumash. So, in fact, the Rambam, what do you mean it's not covered for the tzibur? Say much better. Rabbi say, if you lay, is there a bigger psul than that? If you have a bracious and you come to, you decide you're going to go and get this wonderful mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, and you go and you ask a SEFER to write for you. He comes back to you afterward and he brings you a bracious separately, and a shmoy separately, and a vayikra separately, and a bamidra and a tvarim. You're going to give him a misha berach. You're not going to pay him his money, because is there a bigger psul in the Sefer Torah? You're 80% puzzle. You're 100% puzzle. If you have a bracious without the rest of it, it's the biggest psul in the world. So why, Frek the Helik Rambam, did the Gemara say that the reason why you're not allowed to lane out of a bracious, chumash bracious, is because Kavrat Tzibur, say much better, say the reason why you can't lane out of the Sefer Torah is because it's a psul. It's a puzzle Sefer Torah. It's missing 80% of it. So it's a puzzle Sefer Torah. Elamai, says the Rambam, is even refers to Gemara in Gittin that you're allowed to lane out of a puzzle Sefer Torah, because ain't look like puzzle more than if you only have bracious. So you see that there's no psul in leaning out of bracious. The only psul the Gemara is able to come up with is that it's not covered of the tzibur to lane out of 1/5. But you would see from here, says the Helik Rambam, that you're allowed to lane out of a puzzle Sefer Torah. And what's the has? But like we explained, the mitzvah of having a kosher Sefer Torah is for the mitzvah of ksiva Sefer Torah. But for the mitzvah of laning, you don't require a kosher Sefer Torah. And the Rambam goes on and he says, I know, but my Rebbeim, the Rimagash and the Rif, they also allowed it. Right? And it comes out, the Helik Rambam, that I suppose, of course, lechatchila you should get a kosher Sefer Torah, but the Maisa, Yavada, able to be Yaitza, and then we have an easy day, Rabbi Sai. So if you find the psul in the Sefer Torah, when you're in the middle of laning, what do? You go weiter. What do you do? What do you mean, what do? You go weiter, you make brachas, bracha rishayna, bracha achrayna, and it would be an easy day off. But the Maisa, many Rishaynim go not like this. I didn't say in the Marmikoimis because I wasn't sure if the Olam had it, but in the Abu Jaham, in the 148th page, he quotes a Rashba. It's very interesting. It's a Rashba by us. We'll see there's a different Rashba that we have. But the way he quotes the Rashba, we don't exactly have that Rashba. But the Rashba quoted by the Abu Jaham says, I know this chiddush of the Rambam, where the Rambam says that if a person lanes from a puzzle Sefer Torah, that he's yotzei the mitzvah of laning. He says, Moed niflesi, I can't versteh it. He says, the Gemara always says not like this. The Gemara says, Ein koirin boy. He says, the Rambam is against the Gemara. The Rambam is against the Gemara. And to say that the Gemara just means Ein koirin lechatchila, but really, b'diavad, you are yotzei. He says, that's a big doichik, and I can't misunderstand it. He says, the Rambam's raya is the raya from Birchas HaTorah. This is what's the raya. The Rambam, obviously, it's a whole different story. When we're doing Birchas HaTorah in the morning, that it's no shaykhis. That's going on our learning. It's not going on the laning, but the laning of Ada would require a kosher Sefer Torah. He says the Gemara in Gittin is also no raya. What was the Rambam's raya from the Gemara in Gittin? Why does the Gemara have to come on to the fact that it's not covered at Tzibur? Tell me that you're dealing with the puzzle Sefer Torah. Why are you telling me that you have to that it's a problem in Kavrat Tzibur? Tell me that it's a puzzle Sefer Torah if it only has 20% of the Sefer Torah. So he says that's not a raya, because avada a taka, if you're missing 80%, but what you have is perfect, then that's okay. If you have a bracious and it's a full bracious, that's okay. But if you have an entire Sefer Torah and it's missing one ois, so then that's worse. It's only good if it's a complete dover. Bracious is a complete dover. So then I decide the fact that it's missing Shmois and Vayikra, the only problem there the Gemara came out with was Kavod HaTzibur. But Mashenkin, if you have a Sefer Torah which is one and it's mechuber together, so then it has to be perfect. Rabbi say, you remember what your Rebbeim told you in high school. What did our Rebbeim tell us? They told us from Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. They asked us, what's worse? A broken clock, which is a stopped clock, a stopped clock, or a clock which is off by a few minutes. So most people would say, a broken clock is worse. So Chaim said, no. Chaim said, a broken clock which is stopped is better, because at least twice a day it's right. Twice a day it's 5:30, right? Mashengen, a clock, a watch, which is off by a few minutes, it will always be off. It's never going to be right. So that's the side over here, Abba Yisai. When it comes to a Sefer Torah, if you have a complete Sefer Torah missing one ois, that's it. It's no good. So that's why that's worse than what the Gemara Gittin is talking about, where you have a complete bracious. At least you have a complete bracious there. The only problem the Gemara has is Kavod HaTzibur. So this is a world war. Obviously, the Rashba, the Abu Jaram, they're going that laning also requires a kosher Sefer Torah, and it's not just a dinning Sefer Torah. And they bring down that the Rambam himself, the Rambam in the Yad Chazaka in Hilchos Sefer Torah, in yes. The Rambam himself in Hilchos Sefer Torah, in Perek Yud, Halacha Aleph, over there the Rambam goes on to enumerate the 20 psulim of a Sefer Torah. But in the beginning, before the Rambam brings down the psulim, the Rambam says that if you have any of the upcoming psulim, he says then it's like a chumash, and he writes these words, Ein Koirin, you're not allowed to read it. So he says that Budraham, it must be that the Rambam was chayzer. Unbelievable. The Rambam was chayzer. He said in his younger years, he wrote the Parador. In his later years, he wrote the Yad Chazaka, and he was chayzer. And he also says, I never saw anybody being soymich on this Rambam, says the Budraham, and that Avada, Apostle Sefer Torah, you can't use for laning. And this is the Shita Bemis of the Rashba in the Tshuva, in Aleph Reish Chav Zayin, the Torah in Reish Ayin Tes, in Yardei Reish Ayin Tes. He says, all say if it's puzzle, you can't lane out of it. The guy in Kuf Mem Gimel, I saw a Lush in the Shulchan HaTorah says it's Ketzipur Amitzapsif. If you're going to go and lane out of a Sefer Torah, which is puzzle, it's mamish, a nice niggin, but you're not, you'd say the laning, and it's a bracha levatala. But what do you do with the Rambam? The Rambam says it's not me, it's my Rebbeim, it's the Rif, it's the Rimagash. How did they do it? So the Beis Yosef in Reish Ayin Tes says, we can't say they made a mistake. Can't say that the Halik Arif, the Rambam, they made a mistake. So he brings down his great Rebbe, the Maribe Rav, and he says that no, the Rambam did not have Charata. The Rambam didn't have Charata. Avada, the Rambam goes that a puzzle, Sefer Torah, is kosher, and you could lane out, meaning for laning, and you could lane out of it. All the Rambam means is that if you have a, like we said before, if you have a kosher Sefer Torah, it's lechatchila. If you have a puzzle Sefer Torah, then ein koirin, don't do it lechatchila, but b'diavad, it will work. The Rambam wasn't chayzer. And in the Bedek Abayis, the Beis Yosef brings down that it's certainly not kedai lechatchila, and the Rambam never said the words ein a yotzei in Yad Chazaka. So why should we say that the Rambam was chayzer? The Darkei Moshe brings an auger that says something, a startling and frightening statement. The Darkei Moshe brings an auger that says that Lamaisa, all of our Sifrei Torah, we know have issues and have psulim in them, and that's quite a startling statement. So anyway, says the Darkei Moshe B'Shem Agar, we have to rely on the Rambam because we're not baki maybe in Chaseris and Yiseris, and when there's a Vav and when there's not a Vav. So therefore, says the Agar, we hope the Rambam is right, and that if it's a puzzle Sefer Torah, that you yotzei leini. Lamaisa, in the Maril Chadashis, in Chav Gimel, in the Trumas Hadesh, and in Chelik Beis, and in Ayin, they all agree with the Rambam. So now you have Kotza ad Kotza, Machlekes Rishayim, Godel. Are you yotzei laning with a puzzle Sefer Torah, the Rambam, the Rif, the Rimagash, seem to say, you yotzei with a puzzle Sefer Torah? And it seems to be that the Rashba, and it seems to be certainly that Budraham go not like this. So what's Lemaisa? What's Lemaisa? So Beis Yosef brings in Mari Rav that since the Rambam holds it's kosher, so therefore once you find a mistake, okay, we're not going to say that Lemafreya, it's possible. We're going to, from here on in, whatever was done till now, says the Mari Rav, will be Sainich on the Rambam, and we'll assume that the Rambam sheet is right. You could lay out of a puzzle Sefer Torah. But from this point on, from when you find the mistake, and we'll define that Bez Hashem in a moment, from when you find the mistake, stop, right? And then don't rely on the Rambam. That's what the Mari Rav seems to say. Stop. But, l'chayra, klape brachas, it would seem that we would maybe rely on the Rambam. And this is what we have to be baidik. So Mamela, very interesting. Sounds like, at least from the Mari Rav, that we rely on the Rambam, and therefore, says the Mari Rav, at this point, and again, I'm going to say Allah L'mais in a moment, but it seems to be, and Bez Hashem, we'll talk about Parashat Zachor, talk a lot of stuff we have to talk about Bez Hashem, all time-friendly shilas and sugis Bez Hashem, mamish, tis the season computer, right? But Akopanim, when it comes to what do, you found the mistakes. Until this point, we go with the Rambam. Now, says the Mari Rav, go to the Aron, take out another Sefer Torah, Nevada will have to die. What if you don't have one, etc.? But go to the Aron, take out another Sefer Torah, and from this point, honor the opinion of the Rash, but continue laning, and then make a bracha achrayna afterward. But we go with the Rambam on what we laid. From this point on, we take out a new Sefer Torah, and we start laning. Now, how do you do this? How do you continue laning? How do you continue laning? You can't lane. You don't have a bracha rishayna. Where's your bracha? From this point on, the Rambam, we don't go with. We went with the Rambam a minute ago. Now, from this point on, once it's a puzzle Sefer Torah, so how do you continue laning? Yet the Mari Rav seems to say that, no, you rely on the original bracha. Now, what's this all about? Everybody say, we know that if a person took an apple and it fell on the floor and it got filthy dirty, and then he goes and takes a different apple, the Shulchan Aruch and Reish Vav says he has to make a new bracha. Because his original bracha was not going on this. No, so it's the same thing. The original bracha was not going on this. The original bracha was going on the Sefer Torah Rishon, which we found to be possible. And this is why the Mordechai in Tav Shin Sadi Gimel in Perek Beis the Megillah, the Mordechai says that Enochanami, you know what the answer is? The answer is we rely on the Rambam so much so that you should make a bracha achrayna on this Sefer Torah. But he doesn't just say that. He says, you finish what you're laning, because we rely on the Rambam. Let's say I'm in the middle of an aliyah, in the middle of shlishi, right? And I got to a psul. Says the Mordechai, no, continue. Then make a bracha achrayna. Then take out a new Sefer Torah and make a new bracha rishayna. That's what you do. The Mordechai says, that way I got a bracha achrayna, and the new one has to have a new bracha rishayna. What does the Mari Rav hold? He doesn't seem to hold like this. The Mari Rav said, stop right there, take out a new Sefer Torah and continue laning. He didn't say anything about making a bracha achrayna. He doesn't say anything about making a new bracha rishayna on the new Sefer Torah. Says the Shartzian over here in the Mishavura and Siman Kuf Mem Gimel, that's our siman for the day. Shartzian Sivkotin Chavtes. I'll read you his lashon over here. No, sorry, I won't read you his lashon. Mishnah Brura Chavtes. It says Mishnah Brura Chavtes. Sorry. Mishnah Brura Chavtes. No, my mistake. Well, I'll say it Balpeh because I don't want to take the other time. The Mishabru over here explains what's the pshat in the Mari Rav. These Mishabrus are very, very long, Rabbi Isai. So you don't want me taking your time. And good luck reading all of these Mishabrus. But the Mishabru explains over here that what does the Mari Rav hold? The Mari Rav in the Olam that was in Yerushalayim Mir Kodesh last week probably learned this, that the Mari Rav holds that the bracha isn't on the Sefer Torah. The bracha is on the laning. So over here, you made a bracha on the laning, We're not saimach on the Rambam when we take out a new Sefer Torah, but I do not require another bracha rishayna. You can take out the new Sefer Torah and rely on the original bracha and continue, and then make a bracha achrayna. Ad kan is basically what it says in the Rishayim. Now, what is lemaisa? According to the Rashba, it's puzzle. And in history, says the Mishnah Berurah over here, and very interesting, a startling Mishnah Berurah. He says in history, we used to paskin like the Rashba. And the minig used to be like the Rashba. He said, then the Shulchan Aruch came out with his wonderful sefer, and he pasha changed the minig. And the minig taka became, like you see over here in Simon Kuf Mem Gimel and Siv Daled, and in your day in Reishaim Test, it became something like the Mari. That basically we paskin the Rambam b'di Eved until the point of where we find the mistake. Then says the Shulchan Aruch, and I'll read it to the Olam, says the Shulchan Aruch, that in Nims, it's always Sefer Torah b'shas Kriya moitzi Sefer Torah cheres, like the Mari HaRav, you take out another Sefer Torah, and you start from that spot, and then you continue. That's what he says. It seems to paskin like the Mari HaRav, that you take out a new Sefer Torah, you start from where you left off, and then you make a bracha achrayna at the end of the aliyah. Now, the plot thickens, because it seems like we're paskining that you can be saimach on the Rambam, only b'di'evet, not l'chatchila, not for the new thing, and that we don't go with the Rashba, and it sounds like the Mari HaRav, and it sounds not like the Mordechai. The Mordechai told us that you would continue the aliyah and make a bracha achrayna, and on the new Sefer Torah, you make a bracha rishayna. So it seems like we don't hold like that. Now the plot thickens, comes along the Ramah, and the Ramah does not say yesh shoimrim, which again, maybe it sounds like he's continuing what we just said. It says the Heilige Ramah, vim kvar karo imay shloisha psukim, efshel lahafsid. Now this is like a whole new thing. We never saw this. It says the Heilige Ramah, if you already read 3 psukim in the original aliyah, now we know how it works. If you have 3 psukim, so then that's enough of a chalois that you can make a bracha achrayna on. So he says an unbelievable thing. The Ramah says it depends. We never saw this before yet. But the Ramah says, if you read 3 psukim, then stop right there and make a bracha achrayna. He says, but if not, then you could stop. Then Paiskim Sham, I'm sorry, if it's 3 psukim and it's a place that you're allowed to stop, which we also know it's a very difficult sugya, when exactly you're allowed to stop in laning, is it near a pay, is it near a samich, a little bit of a complicated sugya. But if you read 3 psukim and you're able to stop, you make a bracha achrayna right then, and then you take out a new Sefer Torah and you make a bracha rishayna. Okay? Now, what's this? Mazeh ve'al mazeh comes along the Sefer Mishnah Berurah, that without the Mishnah Berurah here, I tell you, everybody said, it'd be very, very difficult to learn, because this sounds like the Mordechai, it sounds like the Mari HaRav. Where's the Yesh Oimrim? What's going on here? Says the Mishnah Berurah that the Ramah is making a compromise. What's the compromise? We're sort of like the Mari HaRav, sort of like the Mordechai, something in the middle. Ba'atzib, if you're at a point of where you could stop, we do agree there is a problem that the Mordechai has. That's where's the bracha achrayna on what you just laid, and where's the bracha b'shayna on the new Sefer Torah. So therefore, if you're able to make a bracha achrayna, the haynu you laid already 3 psukim, make a bracha achrayna. However, and make a new bracha b'shayna on the new Sefer Torah. However, if you're at a point where you can't stop, let's say you laid only 2 psukim, so now what could you do? You can't stop. You can't go. And to let you continue, that we don't hold like the Mordechai, that we're going to let you continue in the Sefer Torah, because we don't hold like the Rambam. We hold it's possible. So if you can't stop, then we have no choice. We do like the Mari HaRav, and we tell you, take out a new Sefer Torah, start laying 3 psukim, we'll see, and then make a bracha achrayna. But if you could actually stop, because you're already laying 3 psukim in the previous Sefer Torah, in the Pasal Sefer Torah, so then we prefer that you stop, make a bracha achrayna, take out the new Sefer Torah, and make a new bracha rishayna. Now, by say, is the Ramah arguing taka on the Shulchan Aruch? No, this is itself a world war. There's no yesh oimrim in the Ramah. Void and Reishai and Tetz and Yeridea, the Ramah doesn't speak. It's very interesting. The Prima Godim and really the Shach over there in Yeridea learn that the Ramah is agreeing, the Shulchan Aruch agrees with the Ramah. And this is what the Ramah is explaining, is what the Shulchan Aruch himself means. And even the Shulchan Aruch would agree to this. He would say, if you could stop, it doesn't sound like this in the Shulchan Aruch, but that the Shulchan Aruch would agree. If you could stop, make a bracha achrayna, take out the new one, make it a bracha rishayna. The Mishnah Berurah says not like that. He brings a lavosh and says it is a yesh oimrim, and it does sounds a little bit like that in the Shulchan Aruch, that it is a machlekes, but the halacha l'maisa, clearly the Rashba is rejected. What you laid is good, and if you can make a bracha achrayna, this is how we paskin. If you can make a bracha achrayna, great. And from now on, we treat it as a puzzle, and you take out a new sefer Torah, and you continue laying. That's Rabbi Yisai Adkan, the foundation for all the nafkaminas and halachas shilas that we're going to try and discuss now. Let's go one by one. I think I have about 25 shilas here. Let's see what we can get through now that you have the basic foundation of the sugya. Case number one comes Mincha Shabbos, and now you find that Mincha Shabbos, there was a psul in the Sefer Torah, a vadai pasal, not something that happened now, something that always was. Do I have to relane what I did at Shachris? So now you learned the sugya, and now you see that Mikanu Laba, it's possible. But Avada, what you did that day at Shachris and what you did 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago and 4 months ago is all we rely on the Eilik Rambam. So if that fellow comes and he says he demands back his money, and he says, I want back my money for the Aliyah. I bought the most expensive Aliyah of the year. I bought the Chleis, I bought the Shira or whatnot. And you tell him I spent $15,000 on it. You tell him, sorry, we paskin like the Rambam on your cheshbon, because whatever was a gevein is the gevein. Was a geshen, geshen. Ich bin a yid, a git deine yid. Number two. Number three is, so let's say a Monday and Thursday, I laned 10 psukim already, let's say. Make it easy. I laned 10 psukim and 3 aliyahs already. And now at the end, I find the psul. So now what do we do? But we're not at the end of the aliyah. Right? So are we going to say, do all that business that we just spoke about, take out the Sefer Torah? No, that far, says the Chidah, we're going to rely on the Rambam. Because since anyways you're Yotzei laning, you have 10 psukim, and you read 3 psukim in this, so don't forget, if we're going to take out the next Sefer Torah, don't forget, that's going to be also an issue, because we're not going to make a bracha on the laning. So there's a reason if we don't have to take out the next Sefer Torah, we prefer not to. Even though I said that according to the Mari Rav, the bracha goes on the laning, but that's a machleket. The Mordechai says not like that. So therefore, if we don't have to take out another Sefer Torah, we're not going to take out another Sefer Torah. Now, the only question is, are we going to make a bracha achrayna on this Sefer Torah now that it's possible? So that, like I mentioned before, is going to be totally if you learn that the Shulchan Aruch is arguing, and then he won't let you make a bracha achrayna on this Sefer Torah. But don't forget, the Pri Megadim learned that the Ramah is not arguing, and if you're able to stop, you do make a bracha achrayna, and that's halacha l'maisa, what you would do in this case. If you're laying 10 psukim and 3 aliyahs already, and it's a Monday and a Thursday, and now you find the psul, so then if we don't have to take out another Sefer Torah, we won't, and go and make a bracha achrayna right now and stop right there. Now, I must tell you, everybody say, I see there's a lot of shilas. I'm going to ask you, Mechila. Usually I try to look at the shilas as I'm giving the shir. But unfortunately, 2 reasons. Number one is I didn't get a chance to prepare this shir. As you saw, I just ran in. And I'm hoping that it comes out clear. I didn't get a chance, unfortunately, because of the traffic. Rabbi Gauss will tell you the traffic in Yerushalayim, number one. And number two, there's a lot of pratim and a lot of cases. Halavai, I'll get through my cases, Bezos Hashem. That's Lemaisa. Now, another shayla is like this. So tachlis, what do we do? Let's do the process. You're laying 2 psukim, and now you find a psul in the Sefer Torah. So, Maisa, in this case, everyone's going to agree halacha l'maisa. You're laying 2 psukim. There's nothing you could do. You obviously can't make a bracha achrayna now, right? And you can't continue now. So here we're going to say, stop, take out a new Sefer Torah, Bein the Shulchan Aruch, Bein the Ramah, everybody's going to agree. And now go and lane 3 psukim. We'll see in a minute. Don't lane more than 3 psukim, because again, don't forget, you don't have a bracha on the new laning. So whatever I have to do, I'll do. So lane 3 psukim, or at least lane until you can stop, 3 psukim and a stop, and then you're going to make a bracha achrayna. Now, excuse me. Now, I will mention, and if you're in a shul that's like this, don't stop them. The Bach, the Magen Avraham, the Aruch HaShulchan, paskin like the Mordechai. And they take a hold. You continue until this in this Sefer Torah, and you can make a bracha achrayna in this Sefer Torah, in the first Sefer Torah, which is possible. This is not the psak of the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, and the Bir Lacha in Har Siman says that if there's a place that has a minig like the Mordechai, amech kulam tzadikim, and if in that place they finish the aliyah when there's a psul, let them finish the aliyah, make a bracha achrayna. But today the Welt paskins like the Mishnah Berurah, and therefore you'd lay in 2 psukim, stop, take out a new Sefer Torah, continue there, 3 psukim, and then make a bracha achrayna. You found the psul, let's say you're in the bungalow colony, like I'm being asked right now. What if there isn't a second Sefer Torah? Rabbi Schneider is asking, what if there's not a second Sefer Torah? So now what? What do I do? So the feeder Rambam, no problem, but we don't hold like the Rambam. So the Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Kuf Mem Gimel, by us in Sif Gimel, the Sif before, brings down that Afilu B'Kfarim she'ein nimtza lahem Sefer Torah kosher ein mevarchin olav. Says the Heilige Shulchan Aruch, the Mardike Chiddush. He brings here a Rosh and a Rashba that if there's no Sefer Torah, if you don't have a Sefer Torah, okay, you don't have a Sefer Torah kosher. Afilu B'Kfarim she'ein nimtza lahem Sefer Torah kosher ein mevarchin olav. Ein mevarchin olav. So he brings here a Rosh and a Rashba. If there's no Sefer Torah, so then you don't make brachas and you just lane without brachas. And this was Negei, as you all know, in when there was COVID. 1 second, everybody say. I'm sorry, just 1 moment. There's some noise there. 1 second. Sorry. Sorry, everybody say. It's rare that happens. But I guess the Satan knows that this is a Kishma Kashir, so he wants to start with us. So, what happens if you're in a bungalow colony in a situation where there's no other Sefer Torah, and you only have 1 Sefer Torah? You find the psul in the middle of the laning, according to the Rambam. Go weiter. What could you do? The Shulchan Aruch in Kuf Mem Gimel Sif Gimel brings down a Rosh and a Rash, but if there's no Sefer Torah, so he says don't make brachas, just laying without brachas, shall like the shtakach. And as you know, this was Naig, unfortunately, L'tzarenu, in the situation of COVID, where there were people that they didn't have. What could they do? Some people had a Sefer Torah, maybe it was bustle in their house, and they weren't able to go to shul. So you have to lane without a bracha. So in Sif Gimel, he paskins like the Rashba and the Rosh. That's not a stira to Sif Dalet, because for Shteitzach, whatever you laned, avada, that's b'di'evet, you're yoytze. Here we're doing lichatchila. In Sif Gimel, we're talking about lichatchila. Lichatchila, we don't let you do. Excuse me. So what to do? So Mishnah Berurah says in Sif Katan Test, he says just laying without a bracha. Now the only shaila is that can I get a goy? It's going to be a naya psicha, a naya kibbut. Can I get a goy to bring a Sefer Torah from a different bungalow colony? It's interesting. The shaila would be it's a Carmelist. It's a tashvus b'makim mitzvah. There's Reb Shlomo Kluger in Elef Shlomo, also some SEFER, I think, in Orchaim and Siman Zayin. He says that you can't have a goy carry a Sefer Torah. It's a tremendous bizayon. I guess you have to dan what's worse, not having laning at all, or having laning but undergoing this incredible bizayon that a goy should carry a Sefer Torah. So I'll let you think about that. But in a kanami, if you don't have another Sefer Torah, just laying the rest without a bracha. I wonder in that case if you'll be seimich on the Mordechai and laying the rest of the Torah, and then at the end make a bracha achrayna like the Mordechai said to do. I wonder out loud, but like really not clear to me. On a Monday and a Thursday, Rosh Shlomo Kluger, the Divrei Malkiel, in Dalet Gimel, he says, let's say you have a Apostle Sefer Torah on a Monday or Thursday. So he says, look over here, what are we going to do? We're going to go and bring another Sefer Torah, but we don't like metaltal Sefer Torah. So we're going to tell the whole entire tzibur to go and get up and go to another shul. But it's Tircha Tzibura. So he says, Halavai the tzibur will be moichel. That'll be the best thing. And he says himself, he's not sure if you could say that they're mechuyev to get up and go. It's a tremendous Tircha Tzibura. He's not sure. If you're going to tell the entire tzibur to get up and to go in a situation of where there was a Apostle Sefer Torah, to go to another shul and to be mechayev them in the laning, he's not sure. This probably has a lot to do with the whole shaila that Olam learned. Is it a chayvetz yachid? Is it a chayvetz sibur? L'chayr yish ladim b'zeh. Now, the Agav, if you have no Sefer Torah and if you have no new Sefer Torah and you have only the Pasuk one, so some say that you're still allowed to make the Kaddish, because the Kaddish goes on a laning, and fart, it's a laning, fart, it's limud Torah. It's a big shaila that. Now, again, if you have a puzzle Sefer Torah, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in Chav Dalid Ches and the Shar Ephraim say stop even in the middle of a pasuk. The Kaf Chaim says you put back the other Sefer Torah and you take out the new Sefer Torah. I think, if I'm not mistaken, some Sfardim don't do this. I think some Sfardim leave the puzzle one on the bima. We put a gartel on the Sefer Torah. Got to be careful about that gartel we spoke about. Don't tie a knot. Don't tie a bow and a knot. Who knows how long it's going to be there for? Now, I kept mentioning that in the new Sefer Torah, you would lane 3 psukim, and then you'll make a bracha achrona. And this really is the psak that the Mishabur brings down in Sivkot and Chav Aleph. He brings the Nahar Shalom said, even one pasuk is enough, just come to a stop. But this is a very shver psak, says the Mishabur. Argues the Mishabur, over here, from Mikan Laba, we treat the original Sefer Torah as puzzle. So therefore, Mikan Laba was puzzle. So you need 3 psukim. And you can't make a bracha achrona until you have 3 psukim. That's how we pass it. So that's what you do. Now, can I let you more than 3 psukim? Maybe not. Says the Shar Ephraim in Hey Beis, he says only 3 psukim, because don't forget, you also don't have a bracha rishona on the new Sefer Torah. So that l'maisa is what you're supposed to do. Now, excuse me. Marsham also says that in Chelik Ches and in Sif Chav Zayin. Now, sorry. Now, the Mishabur brings Achreinim and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch also in Chav Daled Zayin that, sorry, he says, if possible, let's say to Shabbos, lane 7 new aliyahs. You know, let's say you got to you're in Parshas Nasa and you laid 100 psukim and they found the psul. You have another 60-something psukim. You have another another 76 psukim. So in those 76 psukim, break it up into 7 kruim, because again, Mikana Labba, if you could do this, Mikana Labba, we view as if the original Sefer Torah was possible, which means I also don't have 7 kruim, klape, this Shabbos. If you could, you break it up and you have 7 new aliyahs if you're able to. Now, the Bal Koirei, let's say, had a suffix and he continued anyways. That's an interesting shaila. Do you call a kohen mistam or not? That's an interesting shaila. Mistam or not? I like the shaila, but mistam or not? I wonder if the shoyel is a kohen. I think I know. The Bal Koirei has a suffix, but continued anyways. Let's say that was the case. A lot of times that happens. The Bal Koirei in the middle of the, I know that, Rabbi Kahan. But let's say the Bal Koirei has a suffix in the middle of his laning. In the middle of his laning has a suffix. You know how it is sometimes. He doesn't want to disturb the peace, so he just goes weiter. And after the aliyah, he opens it up and he finds it was possible. So the Magen Avraham in Sivkot and Tetzvav says, Hagam, that you found that psul, 31 psukim ago, and you verified it now, we are seimich on the Rambam, b'di'evad you're yotzei with that laning. Until you know it's puzzle, it's fine. So therefore, even though you knew what to be looking for, but until it was verified puzzle, it's fine. It's puzzle, and until the aliyah was not puzzle. But what happens, a case like this? What happens, the gartel fell off of the Sefer Torah inside the Aron HaKodesh. There was a gartel, which we know if you have a gartel around the Sefer Torah, it means that the Sefer Torah is puzzle. And you didn't realize it because the gartel fell on the floor. Now you took out that Sefer Torah and you laid from that Sefer Torah. Now, the Gabbai looks and he says, whoa. He looks inside the Aron HaKodesh when they're putting back the Aron. He says, what? The gartel. Oigevald, they took out the wrong Sefer Torah. Now this is very serious. We just laid Vayakel Pekude 235 psukim, and you realize that you laid out of the puzzle Sefer Torah. And now, Rabbi Isai, you can't say we're Seimach on the Rambam because we're only Seimach on the Rambam. Remember what we said? Mikan Laba. That was the lashon. But the Mafreya, once we know it's puzzle, from that point we don't. Now here also the Chayra, from this point we know it's puzzle, and we knew before the laning. We just took out the wrong one. So Chayra, can we be Seimach on the Rambam in this case? Comes along the Chidah and he says Saif since Lamaisa. You knew at one point that it was possible. You knew it was possible, and you made a mistake. So that's it. It's possible, but the Evid. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Says Rechaim Pelagi. Excuse me. Says Rechaim Pelagi. This case is terrible. You knew it was possible, and therefore we're not Seimach on the Rambam unless it's Mikan Laba. We're not Seimach on the Rambam, but the Evid. Let me rephrase. We're not Seimach on the Rambam as a lichatchila ever. So here I knew it was puzzle. I just took out the wrong one. So the Rechaim Pelagi says you can't be Seimach. The Chidah says no. The Chidah says Saif, we're Seimach on the Rambam in Bidi Eved situations. In other words, we'll never do it lichatchila, but if you laned, we'll say Bidi Eved it works. I saw that the Yabiyah Oimer in Chedeches and Tezvav and Yud Beis, he says you can rely on the Chidah, and that even if you know it was possible, you just didn't sam leiv and you took out the wrong Sefer Torah, that will be mekel b'di Evid. Now, everybody's like, this idea, it might be a big savior in other cases. You know, sometimes a person gets an aliyah in a Svardi Sefer Torah, a Timani Sefer Torah, the mashal, and he's afraid to get an aliyah because it's a puzzle Sefer Torah. No, maybe for Kavod Siber, you know, even though we write Daka with a hey and they write to a Daka with an aleph and whatnot. So, but maybe if I say vayit for Kavod Tzibur and to not have machlaikisim and leisis to do and whatnot, so maybe if they call you up for an aliyah, there's another thing to cheshbon out. Maybe will be Seimach on the Rambam, even if it's your right and their Messiah is wrong and the Taka the Sefer Torah is possible, but according to the Rambam, you can lay out of a possible Sefer Torah. Ishladen. Now, what if I made a bracha and miyad I see a mistake, right? You know, mamish. You open up the Sefer Torah. The Balkari said, Amen. You look at there and he says, gracious, and gracious is spelled with a gimel. Gracious. So now what? He didn't even start yet. Are we still going to apply the same thing? We have a puzzle Sefer Torah. Are we going to say, come on, but now the bracha wasn't even chal. So here, Dali Rabba, and Simon Kuf Mem, and Siv Dalid, the Prima Godim, and Siv Katan Tess, they taka. Oh, no, sorry, I read the wrong one. No, I'm sorry, that's the wrong market. Mishabru and Siv Katan Chav, excuse me. The Mishabru and Siv Katan Chav says, no problem, you can take out a new Sefer Torah. Now, some are machmer on this shal. Again, the case is, I didn't even start laning yet. So some say if you didn't even start laning, the bracha wasn't kal b'chlal. But the Mishabru Lamaisi, even in this case, is mekel. And he says, go now, take out the new, you started gracious, right? You didn't say a word yet. Take the Sefer Torah, put it back, take out the new Sefer Torah, and make no bracha. Read, like we said, 3 psukim or wherever you're able to stop, make a bracha achrayna, and continue the laning. Next, what if you have a puzzle Sefer Torah, and there's a different Sefer Torah sitting out. Where do you have this? Let's say you have Shkalim or Zachar or something like that. So there's already a Sefer Torah there. So in this case, I have an idea. The Sefer Torah is possible. I'll just take the one that was brought out for Shkalim. Or I'll take out the one that was brought out for Zachar. I'll bring it to the Bima, we'll mish it. So here it says Dali Rabba and Kuf Mem Ziv Daled, the Bima Godim Ziv Katan Tess. They say, no way, take a new Sefer Torah from the Aron. Number one, Karach to Zachar, L'Shamish from Mizrach. They already got the schus of Parsha Zachar, Parsha Shkalim. Number two is that you're going to mish. That's a Moira Dikadir Chatzibur. You're going to have to mix there and mish all the way back. You have to mish 2 times. So then no. In that case, take out, if you have a third Sefer Torah, take out a third Sefer Torah. Okay. Now, what happens by Shvi? Excuse me. What happens by Shvi? Now, there's no real reason why Shvi should be any different, but let's say I have a mistake in Shvi. We called already Shiva Kruim. We have a mistake. Here, there is an incredible chiddush from some Achreinim, I think the Magen Avram, that they say, if you already read Sheva Kruim, so now everyone will agree to the Mordechai, just continue and get till the end and make a bracha Achreinim. The Mishnah Berurah in Sivkot and Chav Gimel says, no way. He says, even if you're up to Shvi, it doesn't matter. Still included. Stop. Take out a new Sefer Torah. Like we said before, if you're able to stop there because it's Rib Psukim, stop there, make a new bracha on the new Sefer Torah. But there's no difference Shvi. However, if the Mishnah Berurah says there's a mistake in the maftir, in other words, let's say now, a case like this, I finished laning, and in Shvi, the Baal Koirei now looks and he sees, now there was a problem here, even in the Shvi. So b'diavad we're Yaitse, because we're Saimach on the Rambam, right? But klape maftir, and that becomes a very big shaila. The maftir, everyone agrees that you needn't repeat. Again, the case is like this. I got the Shvi, I finished Shvi, I made a bracha Achrayna, and now I see a mistake. So now what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to not say Kaddish, and you go straight to the HaTorah. Because the HaTorah has to be going back on a laning. So if you're going to say a Kaddish, it won't be going back on a laning. But we don't want you reading the maftir because the Sefer Torah is possible. So what you do is stop and go straight to the HaTorah. Straight to the HaTorah. The Mishnah says, what if I said the Kaddish and now I find the mistake? So here the Mishnah says, now what could you do? You said a Kaddish, so you need that the HaTorah should be going back on psukim of Torah. So therefore he says, say the maftir 3 psukim, not more, because we don't want to, without a bracha. Just say the maftir without a bracha. As I says to Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says that this, of course, in Tivkat and Chav Gimel, this is also, of course, that the maftir is a repetition of what you lay. Obviously, if it's shkalim or if it's zachar, Rosh Chodesh, like we're in, then you have no choice. About you have to take out a Sefer Torah. Now, something to think about, everybody saying, what happens? You go away for a Shabbos bar mitzvah, and this is this boy's chance, right? We know that a Shabbat bar mitzvah, what would the Chazon Ish say? Give the kid his aliyah more than a yard site. All the different stories we heard. Famous story about Rosh Zalman, that the kid prepared, the bar mitzvah bacher prepared the wrong laning, the wrong HaTorah, and Rosh Zalman said, you lane what you prepared, and I'll say amen to the bracha, because this is the child's chance. And he's been waiting for it and all the preparation and embarrassment. So a bar mitzvah is a very serious thing in halacha, klape the busha of the child. What happens? You come to the hotel and the Baal Koirei, you're in a simcha hall, you only have one Sefer Torah in a hotel, something like that. And in the middle of the laning, the Baal Koirei finds a mistake. What are you going to do now? What do you do now? Well, there is a shita that in maftir, you can maybe lane with a bracha, there's a Taisus Shabbos, but the Mishnah Berurah says no way. And what do you do in this case? They're up to Revi, and they find the mistakes. The Mishnah Berurah in Sivkot and Chav Tes says maybe somebody will say a chiddush. I'll read you Mishnah Berurah. It says maybe someone will say a chiddush that if you started laning beheter and b'chiyev, maybe somebody will say a chiddush that you're allowed to finish the laning. He writes, where was it? If there's no Sefer Torah Cheres, yesh oimrim. The goimrim shiva kruim and varchen of neachrea. The maftir should be shvi and the kaddish. And then he writes, hadagam mavavas is no in the harbors bebrachas b'ifin zeh. And the Shar Ephraim says it's not good. Al yashlim im oilam hazeh. V'lo yivarach bracha achrein, and that's it. I don't know. Maybe at a bar mitzvah, somebody will be brave enough to be saimich on these yesh oimrim that he brings down, Kain Mashman, the Magen Avram, that the Marim Lublin brings, that let's say you get to Revi, and since you started B'chiyev, and you had a right to do the laning, so maybe this is a case that will Slaimach on the Helik Rambam. I don't know. It's a very difficult psak to give, but what's going to be? The kid doesn't have a bar mitzvah otherwise. There's a B'tzel Chachma and Beis Yudalid that brings down, he brings from, I think, a Machzik Bracha, that it's like a chassan that you find, you don't find mitzayra They bring like this. They bring that on the first week of a Sefer Torah, you don't find psulim. Right? You're allowed to lane even with psulim. So Mishal Chacham explains, it doesn't mean that in the first week of Sefer Torah you can read with psulim. It means that the first week is a big simcha, so therefore we'll say on the Rambam. Maybe you'll say the same thing by bar mitzvah. Maybe at the child's bar mitzvah, we have the Rambam, we have those that say you started the laning with a chiyuv and you were allowed to start the laning, so maybe we let you finish the laning. If you only have one Sefer Torah, Mishabura says you can't. And if you could teach this lesson to the child that we follow halacha, and that the ikra halacha says that you will not lane with a bracha, maybe we would do that. But this is a difficult shaila. Do we tell a Baal Koirei not to try to find mistakes? So I don't know. That's a nusach they say, but Lev Chaim and Chelik Beis and Kufayin Vav. He says in Izmir, there was an Ashkenazi SEFER once that came, and he started passing up all the Sefer Torah. And he said, you know what? He's right, and I'm paying for it, and anybody who can't afford it, so you should make sure you check the Sefer Torah. It's true that some Sefer says that today we might not be Makayim the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, because in our Sefer Torah there's lots of psulim and whatnot. But Al Kapanim, I don't know, to look for psulim, maybe not to look for psulim, but to tell a Baal Koirei not to look for psulim, okay, that's already, I don't know. Mishabur and Siv Cotton Chafei says, everything we're talking about today is when you have a vadai psul. If you have a safek psul, and that's a very complicated sugya, Mishabur says now we have a sveka, and we can rely on the cheskes kashrus, and you can continue the laning. And of course, if the Sefer Torah is kosher b'diavad, then it's kosher b'diavad, and don't take out another Sefer Torah, because you see it's riddled with problems taking out another Sefer Torah. Especially if it's a chumrah and whatnot. Avada, if it's a Monday and a Thursday, says Rav Vosner and the Baal Koirei, he can fix it on the spot. Let him fix it on the spot, right? Let's say you're in the middle of the toichacha and you can't stop the toichacha. So there, a lot of achreinim are masking to the Mordechai that you can continue the laning and get all the way till the end and make a bracha achreina. If it's Parshas Zachar, so obviously Parshas Zachar is a shal deraisa. And Shlomo Zalman said if they found a mistake in Shachris, so then really it would be Kedai and Mincha to Lein Zachar again, but it doesn't seem to be that the minig is to go back a different week. The Avnei Tzedek in Siman Yud Zayin, he was the Zayd of the Satmar Rebbe. He had a case over there that there was a SEFER that before Shabbos was correcting a Sefer Torah, which the Avnei Tzedek says don't do. Meaning he was checking a Sefer Torah, says don't check right before Shabbos. But he checked right before Shabbos and he found the psul. And he wanted to know, maybe I won't tell the Olam because they only had one Sefer Torah. Maybe they'll be Seimach on the Rambam. Maybe Taka they'll be Seimach on the Rambam. But Rabbi Isai, the Iker Rabbi Isai, is we see from over here that Lamaisa, it's a Shver Sugya. And Lamaisa, these are long Mishnah Bruras. And Lamaisa, if you're not going to learn them properly, then when it's going to come the time of the laning, it's going to be a very, very stressful situation. So I hope, Bezos Hashem Yisparach, that now we have somewhat of a clarity in the sugya. And Bezos Hashem next week, maybe we'll learn about the Aliyah LaTorah. Bezos Hashem, Havai B'Zaychet, not to be nichshol b'dvar halacha, and not to be nichshol in the laning, in the Krias HaTorah, and it should be oil the rots in Bezos Hashem.
Amen. Okay, there's a list of questions. The Rav answered most of them. I'm just one question here from the beginning. Why are we so sure that we pass like the Rambam and the Yad versus the Tshuva? The Rambam said
it's not a stira. The Fides, it's not a stira.
No, but
they're saying Ein Koirin just means lechatchila.
So
and then it agrees with Rambam.
So the Rambam and the Tshuva stays, and
that's what the Maribe Rav in Yeridei and Reish
said. Everybody accepts this. Everybody accepts this. Therefore, the Rambam is an accepted makel which can be used in all suffix shilas. That's the bottom line.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. The one question here. I don't know if the Rav said it. Bakar is not sure. Can you wait till end of the Leah? What do you Meira Ba? The Balkaira looks, and it looks like the two ICs are stopping each other. So give us a real life touching each other. Real life case. Middle of.
Looks like they're touching?
Yeah.
So you have to bring a child. What should the Balkaira do if he's in the middle of laning and he thinks it might be touching?
Right.
Generally, if he's not sure, obviously if he's sure, it's not going to discuss. If he's not sure, generally I would probably tell him to continue. because the Sefer does have a cheskes kashrus.
And a bracha?
Stomach, make a bracha karan, and then afterward, look back. At the end of that aliyah, to look back. But to finish that aliyah, because we have the Mordechai, we have the Rambam, and we have the cheskes kashrus of the Sefer Torah, and he doesn't have a vadayis. So in all that together, he could probably continue the aliyah.
You have three sfekes, the way you're explaining it. You have three sfekes,
Yeah.
you have suffix.
Yeah.
We always assume the Sefer Torah is a cheskes kashrus. We always have one suffix, it's a chazak to mikara.
Well, I mean, look, all of our Sefer Torah, especially that we checked and we computer checked and everything. I mean, something had to go wrong for there to be a problem.
And then what about the sheets of Rishayim? Everything is chashuv v'seres anyway. How does that?
Right. So yeah, that also that always you add as an after tziruf. That's what the some Sefer says.
Okay, Rabbi say yeshkach to the Rav. I'm happy that he seemed to be almost all the way there to Refuah Shlema. Not perfect, so we wish him Refuah Shlema.
Amen.
I'll discuss with him what we're going to do next week.
Mistama Aliyah L'Torah, Mistama. I'll go through the Aliyah L'Torah.
The Aliyah L'Torah from which perspective?
Mamash will go through everything. Allah L'Maisa cases that come out, all Aliyah issues.